Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the market site in Times Square, New York City, we have Christine DiGangi. She's the Editorial Director over at The Balance. We're going to take a look at millennials. They're carrying debt and not paying it off. And here is how you can get ahead. Christine, it's great to have you with us at Market Site. And the consequences of poor financial planning leads to this mountain of debt that people just can't get out of.
Right, it's an issue with financial planning, but it's also an issue with financial education. So The Balance did a survey of affluent millennials because we figured these people would be in the best situation to have good financial management. And we find that they're still struggling with debt and understanding how to prioritize their finances.
All right, well, let's take a look at the charts that we have here. Affluent priorities, where are millennials placing importance in their life?
So something that's really interesting is that millennials see being debt-free is really important. They think it's a marker of financial success, but at the same time, they're not prioritizing paying off debt. It's not that they're prioritizing bad things, they're prioritizing paying off bills and planning for retirement. But given that they think it's so important to be debt-free and they're not prioritizing at the same time, shows that there's some conflict going on there and some need for them to better understand how they can manage their finances.
All right, now moving along to our next chart, 9 in 10 affluent millennials are in debt. That's a big number. It's 90% of the population.
Yeah, and one of those major sources of debt is mortgage debt, but the second largest piece of debt that they have is credit card debt, which is not good. And it's funny because these are people who have money and yet they are racking up debt on things that are not beneficial, like a mortgage.
All right, now moving along to our next chart, good debt perception.
This one's really interesting because you see that Gen Z, that's younger than millennials, think that mortgage debt is not good, and that Gen X thinks that it's really good, and that's the right perception, is that mortgage debt is a good thing that can help you advance in your financial life. And so what it shows is that people are learning as they go along in life, potentially learning the hard way. The flip side of that Gen Z and millennials think that credit card debt is good when it's not. A quarter of the affluent millennials that we surveyed at The Balance thought that it was good to hold credit card debt, and it's not. So it's an educational issue, but also shows that people might be learning things the hard way, which you definitely don't want. You want people to not realize that credit card debt is bad when you're super deep into it.
I'm speechless. I can't imagine that anyone would think credit card debt is a good thing.
I know. It actually reflects what I've heard in my everyday life, that people have this misconception that having credit card debt is good for your credit score, and it's not. And so it's really important that people learn how to best manage their credit cards. Using credit cards is not a bad thing at all. And actually, there are ways you could use a credit card to help yourself get out of debt. But yeah, it's just a level of education that people haven't gotten throughout their teens and their young adulthood. And then we're showing that Gen X, they get that credit card debt's not good. And it's possibly because that they learned that the hard way a couple of years ago.
All right, our last chart here, information sources.
Sure. Yeah. What we found is that affluent millennials turn most to websites to educate themselves on personal finance, which is great. There's a lot of good resources out there. And so the thing that people should do is take it upon themselves. This time of year is a great time to do that, to learn what you can do to better improve your financial situation, whether that's starting off the new year by consolidating your credit card debt or just committing to spending a little bit less and throwing a little bit more toward that debt that they have so that they can reach that goal that they think is so important of being debt-free.
All right, let's wrap this up on a good note. How do you get ahead of paying off this debt?
It's so much of an emotional thing. If it were easy, if it were people always choosing to be logical with their money, people wouldn't be in debt. And so it's recognizing what those things are that maybe cause you to overspend. Something that's really great about this time of year is a lot of credit card companies will send a year-end summary of how you've been spending. And so you can look at that and see, do I identify with this? Do I really want to be spending 35% on my credit cards of going out? And maybe you do, but maybe you don't. And so this is a good time of year to recalibrate and look at the tools that are available to you to help you get out of debt, whether that's just setting a small goal of I'm going to spend X dollars less this month on this, or they're going to maybe decide they're going to finally get out of credit card debt by taking out a balance transfer credit card or taking out a personal loan to help consolidate that. There's a lot of really good tools out there for people to use, and so I really encourage people to just start looking and seeing what they might identify with most.
And of course on thebalance.com,
yes.
Tons of resources on there. Christine, thank you so much for joining us at Market Site.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.